What's up, Combat Allies, OD Green Desert Tan, bands or no bands? I'm Mark from SoCal Tactical Airsoft. In the Airsoft community, it is a known fact that most players enjoy playing Airsoft as much as they enjoy telling war stories later on in the dead box. And while many players may seem experienced like they come out every weekend, we all know that they don't. But the players that are out here every weekend, that are the most overlooked, that have the best stories to tell, are the Airsoft refs. They have the best seat in the house to watch all of us trip, fall, fail, and cheat. So today, I welcome you to Ask a Ref, where we get to hear great advice and awesome stories from Airsoft refs. So, let's hear what the refs have to say about us.
Alright, no bangs, are you ready?
If you're within 10 feet of a player, you have bang bang or surrender.
If you guys don't know if it's a ricochet or if it's a friendly fire, make sure you guys call your hits.
The objective is to raise your team colors up and keep that flag raised up for 5 whole minutes.
This is a Capture VIP game variant.
Name of the game is simple. We're playing Insurgency.
Alright! This game will be live in 3, 2, 1!
Probably the most common mistake I've ever seen players make is, at least here, probably not pulling out their dead rags and getting shot more than they need to be and then complaining about it. Or just accidentally flipping into full auto. It just happens sometimes, but we usually catch them and they stop.
Shooting friendly fire, friendly surrenders, shooting dead players, that's probably the most common.
People take their masks off all the time out on the field because it gets hot or it gets sweaty or it just doesn't feel right to them, and that's a big mistake because it costs a whole lot of money out there if you lose an eye. So we'll all get on you, players, referees, anybody will make sure that they're keeping their mask on at all times, but it is something that I see often.
I'd say the biggest mistake I see players make is just lack of awareness of when they're getting hit, because sometimes they'll be sitting in a spot not realizing they're getting hit, and then they'll be looking around like, what's going on? It'll be like a slight small spot like this big, and they're like, okay, I can call you out. Hey, you're out.
The most mistake I've seen players make is leaving the field without their barrel socks.
I always see players put their mags upside down inside their guns and always get the gun jammed.
Mistake I see players doing all the time would have to be not swapping shoulders, giving too much body peeking out of cover and stuff. If you really want to improve, I would suggest maybe fixing that. So either learning how to use different shoulders or maybe exposing less of your body when you're playing, just something like that.
People falling off, falling over, tripping over their own feet. Sometimes BBs actually. They're slipping on BBs.
One of the mistakes I see players make all the time on the field is exposing too much of their body when peeking a bunker. That's one of the bigger mistakes I see a lot.
One mistake I see is a lot of people don't hold a gun right. They hold it up in the air, way too far out, not against their shoulder.
Probably, I would say, shooting a player too close, but out of surprise. Like, you come around a corner and you didn't expect to see a player there, and you tense up and you pull the trigger. Accidentally, you shoot someone too close.
The attitude that to win at all costs, the game used to be, everybody was having fun and enjoying it, and nobody wanted to ever break a rule because you didn't want to be known as that kind of player. But now it seems like it's win the game at all costs, stay alive at all costs, whether you got to cheat or whatever. And the violence, the mag dumping, all that kind of stuff. Mag dumping by far is like the worst thing for Airsoft. It's bad for the sport, it's bad for the culture, it's bad for business.
Personally, I believe the one thing that should go away in Airsoft is the bang bang rule.
The toxicity of the players. Like, ego-driven Airsoft is really sad for the sport. It's a commutative sport, and so when players think they have an ego above everyone else, it kind of makes the sport kind of salty.
Definitely mag dumpers and people who feather. It just makes it not fun for especially new players, because then they watch those videos and they get scared because they're like, what if this is going to happen to me? So if anything could go away, it's definitely mag dumping and feathering.
There's this kind of like stigma that people don't call their shots a whole lot. Like there's not a sense of like they don't understand when to call, or I don't know. There's like the stigma around Airsoft that people don't call their shots, and it's easier for people in paintball to call their shots. When I find more often than not, people are like, they hold themselves to a higher standard and make sure that they call their shots and that they are honest.
I would say mag dumping for sure. I mean, it's not helping the sport at all, but I mean, it's getting those players off the field.
people getting mad because people don't call their shots. Okay, they don't call their shots, but you don't have to really get too mad about it. I know it's a game, and you want to be good at the game, but you can't always get mad because people don't call your shots. They'll call their shots.
I feel like at some places feathering, I know at like indoor places and tournaments and stuff, they allow it, it's cool, but like at recreational places where people just want to come out and have fun, like pickup game stuff, I wish that stuff would go away. All it does is create problems.
Cheaters. Completely cheaters.
Polar stars, definitely.
Yeah, usually, and it sucks to say this because not all of them do it, typically kids with polar stars and dye masks, and if they're wearing like sweaters that have like team logos, you gotta kind of watch out for them a little bit more, just because we're not sure, especially if they're new players.
For me, it's just usually a solid color combat shirt is a good indication. Groups of guys all wearing the same gear is always a good indication something's gonna go wrong. Pigs, generally guys wearing the pigs, not all of them, but that's a red flag too, we watch. I'd say solid color combat shirt is probably the most common.
Unfortunately, the biggest giveaway is going to be dye mask and polar star. I know everybody's like, not all players. It really is true, not all players are like that. I have a lot of people that come in, they're regulars and we know them and I trust them and stuff. But if we don't know who they are, especially here, we do tend to keep an eye on them. Same as the DSGs as well, and we figured that out when we do chronos and stuff.
Usually the players with the contours on their dyes and running pigs. It's usually the main loadout.
Usually people that have a bulkier protection on their body, that's mostly who I look out for more.
It's a lot less equipment or gear, it's more like those players' demeanor. It's like sometimes the way they come in and like how they're walking and just how they're interacting with their friends and stuff like that kind of gives me or like other refs a red flag. It's like, all right, he may be an issue.
Nah, I don't look at people like that. Everyone's equal. So it all depends on your playing style. If you're really aggressive, I'll keep an eye on you. If not, then, But I will, for my most part, keep an eye on everyone just to make sure everyone's having a good time, everyone's playing right.
If someone's wearing something no, I mean, each player, I can't judge them off of gear or off of the gun or what they wear, because we have players that will come in on shorts and a t-shirt and wreck the field. We have players in full like military outfit that do absolutely nothing. So I never judge a book by its cover.
In my experience, I've seen a lot more newbies cheat just because they get shot and they don't know what to do, so they stay in. Veterans, they most likely call themselves out because they know the drill.
Hey, people are dishonest. Even veterans can be dishonest. I've seen veterans cheat all the time. I've seen noobs cheat. It all depends on the player. I think, I'm gonna say noobs though, because noobs, man, they walk out right in the open, they get shot, and they just run right back and they keep playing because they don't know what to do. They just keep going.
Noobs always cheat. Vets, they always calling their shots. If they get hit once, they're out, or somebody bang them, they're out. But newbies, they always getting in situations.
Everyone. It doesn't matter if you've played for 10 years, it doesn't matter if it's your first day. I've seen it all over the spectrum just being a ref. So personally, my answer would be anyone can cheat. Doesn't matter if you're a vet or a newbie.
That's pretty 50-50 right there, honestly. I see both sides do it constantly.
50-50. A little bit of both, yeah.
I would say that's 50-50. I see a lot of good players that run by surrenders, ignore surrenders, ignore barrel to barrels, ignore hits. I'd say it's 50-50. Probably a little bit more with the newer players, slightly. And that's just because they're learning the game. They think they're hitting everything they're shooting at. Nobody else is calling their hits, so they do the same thing. But I think overall it's pretty close to half and half.
This is funny. I honestly think it would be a veteran because you can see noobs jump up when they get hit. They're like, and they call themselves out almost immediately. Vets will take a couple hits and they'll be like, all right, I'm out. Like, all right. And I've definitely seen vets sit there and get like lit up and then finally call their shots.
So, in that sense, intentional cheating, most of the time it's the kids that's been around for a little bit, or the adults that have been around playing for a little while. Noobs, it's unintentional because they don't know what's going on. It's their first few times. They maybe been playing for a few months or so they're still trying to get into that, how Airsoft works and stuff like that. But in terms of intentional cheating, it's always guys that have been playing for a while.
There's different kinds of cheating. Malicious cheating, like purposely, like, oh, I know I got hit, but I'm gonna keep playing kind of cheating. Most of the time is gonna have to be the veteran players. I've seen that quite a bit. But the new players, they will cheat, but I feel like most of the time it's not malicious. It's maybe they're not realizing it.
Personally, I believe veterans are more likely to cheat because since they believe that they're better than more people, they believe that they think that they deserve more recognition or like something like that. I believe that vets are more likely to cheat.
Veterans. Honestly, veterans are more likely to cheat because, again, that ego goes into play there and they feel that they're maybe better off than the noobs. Noobs are a little bit too scared to break rules, and we see them following the rules a little bit better than some of the veterans out on the field.
The funniest thing probably has to be a lot of players falling while they're sprinting. So I think that's probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I had a player yelling at me that these people weren't calling their heads, and I looked over at his gun and he still had his barrel cover on. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Probably the funniest thing, I don't know. We have a few players that come out here with like big onesies. We have this one dude who comes out here in a Care Bear suit. Another kid who comes out here as a monkey, and he has a friend that's a banana. So that's always pretty funny to watch them run around and do that stuff.
The funniest thing I've seen on the field is probably when I was doing the rules, there was a giant green wasp, which I didn't even know existed, and it was right next to my face, and someone shot it out of the air.
I would have to say the creativeness in like what people dress up as is kind of the more funnier things I find on the field. We see here at TAC, we see from people cross-dressing in weird anime stuff to like full blown out milsim stuff that's a little maybe too hardcore for Airsoft purposes.
It's gotta be when players, like the way they interact with each other, you know, a lot of that stuff goes on. Or sometimes when people fall on stuff, you know, we make sure they're okay first, and then I'll laugh after. You know, it's one of those things, so.
Most funny thing, I would say when I see two friends go on opposite teams, and they're just, from the ref tower, I can see that they're sitting on the same wall, but they're just on the opposite side, and they just never seem to find each other on the field.
Probably like a group of guys all helping out one little itty bitty kid, like all rush into like a group of bigger guys, like with all their guns upgraded. Like it was a lot of fun. It was like Juggernaut, but with a kid as the Juggernaut, and the kid owned the entire game. It was really, really awesome, actually.
Players running around with the lightsabers thinking they're Jedis and absolutely getting annihilated on the field and wondering why they're getting shot. Always talk to a ref. Never take it in your own hands. Always talk to a ref about it. We'll handle it the best.
Come up to a ref. Make sure you have a description of the player and what they're using, what they're wearing, and that'll help us evaluate who to target or who to look out for, so we can keep a better eye out.
The worst thing to do is keep shooting him and overshooting him until he calls his hits, because that just creates bad feelings on the field. Best thing is come to the referee, let the referee know, let us take care of it. It might take a game or two to check somebody, but we always follow up on our checks, and we catch a lot of people not calling their hits. Depending on the player, sometimes we'll talk to them and explain to them the only way the game works is if everybody called their hits. If it's a regular player that just maybe didn't feel it or is ignoring it, then we'll probably set them out for a game or two.
Always go to the ref. Never confront the player, because that just causes more problems. That can lead to a fight, an argument. Always go to the ref.
Honestly, move on. Like, the sport's gonna have cheaters, and I give players benefit of the doubt. I might have hit them, but honestly, sometimes we're wearing too much gear, sometimes the adrenaline's too high, we don't feel it, and move on, get into another position, try to tag them in a different way, and challenge yourself. Don't make it the negative of the player, make it the negative on yourself if you're getting upset with the player. You're the choice of your own destiny of how you wanna feel about playing Airsoft.
Go to a ref immediately. Like, the ref will deal with it for you. as quickly as possible. If they didn't see it happen, then the next game there'll definitely be eyes on them. So they'll make sure to watch that player. If there's any cheating whatsoever, they'll mark the wristband, and if they do it again, they get sent off the field.
Depending on whatever field you're playing on, I would say definitely notify the referee first and then let them handle it. In regards, if you're going to handle it yourself, you're going to get yourself and the other player kicked out. It's better just to let the referee handle it so that way they can take it in their own hands.
How should a player deal with a cheating player? He should definitely come and talk to a ref. We try to intervene as much as possible to make it obviously the safest environment for everyone. Because if it's a player-on-player contact and he's calling out somebody for cheating, it usually turns into a fight either with words or with fists, and we don't want that. We want everyone to have a good time.
Okay, you shot a guy, he didn't call it, wait a few seconds, shoot him again. Doesn't call it there, then just bring it to us and we'll deal with it, because that's what we're here for. Don't always try to go into people's faces and stuff like that, because that just causes problems and makes a small issue a very large issue.